welcome to HCB, where today it is week 12 predictions of the Premier League, and there's a lot of interesting games this weekend. There's the battle for first, there's the battle for last, so let's get into this. It is going to be a blast. And yes, don't worry, I hate myself for doing that intro as well. Up first, we have the Wooden Spoon Derby, as on Friday it will be Norwich versus Watford. Now, Wooden Spoon, for people that don't know, is what some teams get if you come in last place in some leagues. And, well, how fitting it is for this match. It is 19th versus 20th. Both sides coming off of losses last weekend, with Watford's coming against Chelsea, while Norwich is coming against Brighton. Both sides, as I said on my review, need to win this game. It's a must-win for both sides. It's basically, who is less rubbish? Who can actually put a bit of pride into their season? I mean, I know Norwich beat City, but since then they've been awful. Watford have been awful since the start. So who can now put a bit of pride in and prove they're not as awful as we think? The last time these two sides met was in 2016 in the Premier League. Norwich come up 4-2 winners. I mean, I'm not sure how much impact that has, considering how much this Norwich side has changed since that season. I mean, I would go into like home and away win records. I will say Norwich have won 2 out of their 5 home games. They've got their 2 wins this season at home. I mean, I think you know how many wins and losses Watford have home and away. But let's just say they've got 5 points. They've also drawn 5 games. It's no coincidence. Having said that, for Watford, with regards to how I think this game will go, I believe that out of the two sides, despite them both, neither of them winning, obviously, I believe that Watford have looked more like getting something. They've looked slightly better than Norwich. So with that, I believe Watford will get their first win this weekend, and I'm going to say they're going to win 2-0 against Norwich, just to palm more misery on Norwich themselves, and I believe they would leapfrog them in the league if they got that result. Maybe not. They'd be level on points. They might be on level points. Up next, we now go to the Saturday games, where it's the Gary Cahill derby as Chelsea host Crystal Palace. But now, when it comes to last week, they're coming off contrasting results. Palace coming off a 2-0 loss to Leicester. Meanwhile, Chelsea coming off a 2-1 win against Watford. Also coming off an historic Champions League game during the midweek, where they drew 4-4 with Ajax. It was historically memorable, obviously. No records were broken. I apologise if you can hear any background noise. That's just a fire alarm, I believe, going past, if you can hear that. With regards to the two sides, both sides are flying high still. I know Palace are 9th, but they're still level, doing very well in the league. Meanwhile, Chelsea have a secure place in the top 4 at the moment. As for the history between the two sides, Chelsea have won 7 of the last 3, winning the last 3 meetings. The most recent win coming on December 2018, a 1-0 win at Selhurst Park. And with regards to their home form, Chelsea have won only 2 of their 5 games. A lot of their wins are coming on the road this year, but they have only lost 1 home game. We should also specify against Liverpool. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace away from home won 2 out of 5 games, with 2 of their 4 losses coming away at Sheffield United and Spurs. With regards to this game, I believe that Chelsea will carry on their momentum from coming back from 4-1 against Ajax and their just general winning form, and beat a Palace side that is now winless in 3. I believe it will be soon to be 4. It will be 3-1 to Chelsea. Up next, we have the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and up first, it is the Claret teams who conceded 3 goals last week derby. That is the longest name derby this week. As Burnley play West Ham, both sides coming off losses last week. Burnley, as I said, they both conceded 3. Burnley lost 3-0 to Sheffield United. Meanwhile, West Ham lost 3-2 to Newcastle at home. As for this game, the history between the two sides, Burnley have won the last game between the two sides, a 2-0 win on December 2018. But overall, West Ham have won 5 of the last 8 meetings between the two sides, with Burnley only winning 2 of them. Obviously, both sides' form is not good. Burnley winless, have lost their last 3 games. Meanwhile, West Ham are winless in 5. So both sides going into this would like to end that route and get a win on the board. Having said that, West Ham's away form is very 50-50 at the moment. They've only won 1 game away from home, but then again, they've also only lost 1 game away from home, drawing a lot on the road this season. Meanwhile, Burnley, when it comes to their home form, have actually got a very good home form. They've won 3 of their 5, with the 2 non-wins coming against Chelsea and Liverpool, both ending up in losses. As for this game, look, as you will know, I'm a West Ham fan, and last 2 weeks I have had confidence in West Ham, thinking, you know what, they should be able to beat teams at home against Sheffield United and Newcastle. I've been failed both times. So this week, even though we're away, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm not going to predict we're going to lose or anything like that, but I believe it'll be quite a tight game, and like many of our away games this season, it's going to end in a draw, and it will end 1-1 between Burnley and West Ham. Up next, we have the Matt Ritchie derby as Newcastle take on Bournemouth. Both sides coming off a win last week with Newcastle beating West Ham 3-2. Meanwhile, Bournemouth getting their first win in 4 games against Man United at Vitality with a Josh King 1-0 win. That's also securing for Bournemouth their 3rd straight clean sheet in the Prem. As for the recent history between the 2 sides, Newcastle, the last meeting between the 2 was in March. It ended in a 2-2 draw, with Newcastle scoring a late equaliser with, I forget who it was. I honestly can't remember who it was. It might have been Matt Ritchie, to be fair. As for recent form, there's literally not much you can split between all of them. In their last 6 results, Newcastle have won 2, Bournemouth have won 2, and there have been 2 draws. However, both of Bournemouth's wins have come away. As for home and away form, Bournemouth's away run, they've won 2 of their 5 away games this season, only with two losses coming against Arsenal and Leicester. Meanwhile, Newcastle have only won 1 home game this season against Man United. However, they have only lost 1 home game as well this season, coming on the opening day against Arsenal. With regards to the game itself, despite scoring 3 last week against West Ham, I believe that Newcastle still struggle to have a good attacking option up top that can actually score goals. As I said last week, despite scoring 3, their actual attackers, St. Maxim and Joelinton, couldn't score to save their life. I believe against a more competent defence, a defence that has not conceded in their last 3 games for things like set pieces, that is in Bournemouth, they were going to struggle more, even though they're at home. And I believe this will be an away win for Bournemouth. It's going to be 1-0 with, standard goal scorers probably. Wilson or King getting the goal. But yeah, that will be the result for that game. Up next, we have the Ronald Koeman derby as Southampton play Everton. Both sides coming off winless games last week. Everton's was a draw against Spurs at Goodison Park, 1-1. Meanwhile, Southampton losing 2-1 to Man City, which was probably considered a better result than a draw. That is the power Man City has. Southampton at the moment are winless in 6, with losing 5 in that run. Meanwhile, Everton have only won 1 in their last 7. Again, losing 5 in that run. So both sides not going into this game with the best form. Remember, like it was like 3 years ago. This was a battle for 7th. How times have changed, as it's now a battle for. It's pretty much a relegation 6-pointer. It is 17th versus 18th at the moment between these 2 sides. As for the form, Southampton are still winless at home. They have not won a single home game this season, losing 4 of them, only picking up 1 point at home this year. Obviously, the most memorable loss for them has come in a 9-0 defeat against Leicester. Meanwhile, Everton on the road are also winless. They have not won they've not won any of their 5 away games this season, losing 4 of them, with the only point coming against Crystal Palace on the opening day of the season. So in total, Southampton 1 point at home this season. Everton 1 point away. It doesn't look like a winner. So one of 2 things obviously is going to happen. Either one of their records is going to be broken and Southampton will win at home or Everton will win away. Or the thing I think will happen is they will play a score draw out. I believe Southampton will will gain confidence, and to be fair, Everton will gain confidence from their results last week and take that in to score some goals. I do believe both sides are still not good at the back, so I'm going to say this game will end 2-2. I mean, I'm probably being optimistic here, aren't I? With the amount of goals, it's probably going to be 0-0. But I'll get a point for the draw. And then up next in our final 3 o'clock kickoff game, it's the Carl Walker derby as Spurs play Sheffield United. Even though Carl Walker no longer plays for either side, we've gone to better things, I guess. So I've got to insult Spurs once a week. Okay, that's the rule I've got. But Spurs coming off a 1-1 draw against Everton last week, making their winless run 4 in the Premier League. Meanwhile, Sheffield United keeping their unbeaten run to 4 with a convincing 3-0 win against Burnley at home. Now, this is where the stats get interesting for this season. Spurs obviously have won 3 of their 5 home games this season against Villa, Palace, and Southampton. However, they did draw their last home game against Watford. Meanwhile, Sheffield United are one of a few. Sheffield United have only won 1 game away from home this season, but they are unbeaten away from home, drawing the other 4. So they're very formidable at home. It's the stubbornness and rigidity. Rigidity? You don't come on here for good pronunciation, do you? You come in here for football. But let's go with stubbornness with Sheffield United's tactics, which has them working so hard and well under Chris Wilder. So this is a very, very tough game for me to call. Obviously, it's been over 10. It's been ages since these sides have met in the Premier League. They might have had a couple of cup meetings between them, but I do know that these sides haven't met in the league in over 10 years. With regards to the results, as I said, it's very hard. However, I'm going to slightly favour Spurs here, just on the basis they're coming off a good away result, 4-0 against Red Star Belgrade. They're sort of getting better as weeks go on, I guess. And I will say the one benefit Spurs do have, Son's red card got overturned, which is a positive for them, so he could potentially score. That is if he plays. I don't think anyone, even Spurs fans, know what the lineup will be. So overall, I believe the Spurs quality will just outshine Sheffield United. I'm very cautious on this one. I think even Spurs fans will be cautious to pick the Spurs win, but I'm going to say this will end 2-1 to Spurs. I'm not confident. I'm not confident on this one. This could easily go another way. We now move on to the late kickoff on Saturday, and that is the pacey striker on FIFA 20 derby as Leicester play Arsenal. And you try and think of another link between these two sides. I couldn't even do best of the rest because Chelsea are 4th. So if Arsenal actually were doing well recently, both sides. Leicester coming off a 2-0 win away from home against Crystal Palace, completing back-to-back away wins with 11 goals combined in them. There's no prizes for guessing which one contributed most of those goals. Meanwhile, Arsenal coming off another winless game, this one at 1-1 against Wolves, where they actually were dominated from, not at Wolves, against Wolves at the Emirates, where they actually were dominated for most of the game, conceding over 20 shots in it, making them winless in 3. As with regards to the history between the two sides, Arsenal have won 6 of their last 10 meetings, while Leicester have only won 2 of them. However, Leicester have won the last 2 games at the King Power, scoring 3 goals in each of them, with the most recent being a 3-0 win in April. With regards to the form this season, Leicester are unbeaten at home. They're actually winning 4 of their 5 games. They're only dropping a point coming at the opening day against Wolves. Meanwhile, Arsenal away from home have only won 1 out of 5, with that away win being on the opening day against Newcastle, but since then they have only picked up 2 points away from home, with losses to Arsenal, to Liverpool and Sheffield United contributing to their losses. Obviously, both sides are very high up in the table with 3rd versus 5th. However, I believe this won't be a close game whatsoever. I believe the goal-scoring form of Leicester and the fact that actually this week Granit Xhaka has been taken off captaincy. The morale is not good, and I will quickly say on Granit Xhaka, I believe at this point he needs to leave the club, just for his sake as much as Arsenal's sake, as the fans and the fans' sake. He needs to have a fresh start. Arsenal need to have a fresh start, and which they are going to have with Aubameyang as captain. I think it would benefit everyone all round. So that's the quick note on that. Back to the game, I believe this will be a big wake up call for Arsenal as well, and this would prove how much how good Leicester are, because they haven't beaten like a proper, only apart from Spurs, they haven't beaten a proper top six side. Yeah, and it haven't been convincingly as well. So I'm going to say Leicester are going to win this game 4-1. I know for a fact that is going to annoy one viewer, at least on this channel. You know who you are. I referred to you in the review video as well. We now move on to the Sunday games, and the first one is the Jesse Lingard derby as Man United play Brighton. And you can Google it. Jesse Lingard was on loan at Brighton for 15 games. There was literally no other player that played for both sides. With regards to the form, Man United, they're coming off contrasting results. Brighton coming off a 2-0 win against Norwich. Meanwhile, Man United coming off a 1-0 loss against Bournemouth after so much optimism around the club has pretty much now gone, which is, I mean, I say it's a shame. I don't think it's unless you're a Man United fan, I don't think it's a shame. Just personal opinion. With regards to the form going in, Man United at home have only won 2 of their 5, which for Man United isn't good. They've only lost 1, however, with that being on the 3rd day of the season against Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, Brighton have only won 1 game away from home all season. That coming on the 1st day against Watford. However, they have only lost 2 of the resulting. With them losing 3, of the resulting 4 away games against Chelsea, Villa, and Man City. Obviously, in this scenario, Brighton are actually higher in the table now after a good back-to-back. After 3 wins out of their last 4, they are now moved up into 8th. Meanwhile, Man United, only 1 win in their last 6, has dropped them down to 10th. So this is, again, a very, very tough game to call. This could easily be an upset. There's a lot of games that could easily be upsets for sides. And if more of these top 6, the Spurs and Man United, were away from home, I'd probably be putting more. This one I'm going to play. I don't even think this is safe, because in theory Man United should win this game quite comfortably. Let's just quickly look at, I will say, at the last few meetings. Man United, pretty much, they've played each other 5 times in recent history. Man United have won all 3 that were at home at Old Trafford, and meanwhile Brighton have won all 3 that were at the Amex. So in theory, Man United should win this game on form, on recent history, and on paper of the 2 sides. However, I'm going to say that this game, with Man United's lack of goal scoring still being evident against Bournemouth, and Brighton steady improvement under Graham Potter, that this will be a good result for Brighton. It's going to be a good point, and I'm going to say this will be 1-1 at Old Trafford, putting more frustration on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Up next, we have the Courtney Hoyce derby as Wolves take on Villa. You're gonna have to look up Courtney Hoyce if you don't know who he is. He plays for Villa. He used to play for Wolves. That's pretty much all you need to know. Both sides coming off winless weekends last weekend. Wolves coming off a draw against Arsenal, which they would be happy with, unlike maybe Villa, who come off a last gasp loss to Liverpool, which they put up a good fight but ended up losing. Wolves' result extended their unbeaten run to 6 games now. However, they have only won 1 game at home this season, that coming against Watford. Despite that, they've only lost 1 game at home as well against Chelsea. Meanwhile, Villa away from home have won only one game, that being against Norwich, that 5-1 result at Carrow Road, while losing the other 4, so they are not well travelled this year. With regards to history between the 2 sides, obviously recently these sides played in the Carabao Cup with Aston Villa beating them 2-1. And when it comes to actually their recent form, which has been in the majority in the Championship, the last 9 results, Wolves have won 3, Villa have won 3, and there have been 3 draws. So you can't really base it on that. The most recent result was Villa beating Wolves 4-1 in 2018. With regards to how I believe this game will go, I think it will be quite simply a comfortable result for Wolves with their good form going into this and Villa's poor away form as well. I'm going to say Wolves, despite Villa maybe taking some confidence from the Liverpool game, they should be. Um, but I don't think that'll be enough to overthrow Wolves side at Molineux. So I'm going to say it will be 2-0 to Wolves. We now go on to the final game, and it's the big one, and it's the Mario Balotelli derby as Liverpool play Manchester City. First versus second, the game we all want to see this weekend. Well, I believe you do. I can't imagine if you're not, unless you support the club, you're going to want to see Burnley, West Ham, and yes, I am powering my own team there. But in the grand scheme of things, that game is not is not one people want to see. I mean, surprise, both sides coming off wins. I mean, again, they were pretty much identical wins, both 2-1. Liverpool's coming against Villa, Man City's coming against Southampton. Both late goals, resulting in comebacks for both sides to win. Obviously, going into this game, Liverpool are 6 points clear at the top. City would like to decrease that to a 1-win margin. Meanwhile, if Liverpool win this, they go 9 points clear, with it, which is a big margin even at this stage of the season, resulting in City's third loss before the end of the year. With regards to the history between the two clubs, despite the results last year where Liverpool couldn't beat City, Liverpool have won 6 of their last 10 meetings against them, with City winning only 2 of them. None of them have been away, and there's also been 2 draws in the mix. The most recent result was obviously the City win 2-1 at the Etihad, pretty much winning them the title with that John Stones clearance. The one good thing he has done in probably a gazillion years. I definitely know it's the only good thing he did that year, based on his Nations League performance in Portugal. So look, obviously this is going to be a hard to anyone to pick. Most people will probably go draw, and I'd understand that they'd want to chicken out. They want to say draw. However, I'm going to be bold and actually pick a winner here, and I believe that this is a very tough one because I think if the Champions League games had gone differently this weekend, I would be going potentially for City because Liverpool have been on a slow decline in form. Not in results, but in form, and they haven't looked at their best. Meanwhile, City have been rising ever so slightly. However, since the Southampton result and the draw against Atalanta, I believe they're a bit depleted at the moment. So overall, I'm just going to go for the home side and say Liverpool are going to win this game, and they're going to win it 2-1. It's going to be a draw, isn't it? It's going to be a draw. I'm going 2-1. I want to be bold and say there's going to be a winner here. I'm now thinking it's going to be a draw. But never mind, I've gone 2-1. So that is all the games this week. Let's quickly look at my fantasy side for this week, which obviously is now top of the league. As you can see, I made one transfer. I took out Nicolas Otamendi, who's not been guaranteed a start recently, and I've put in Nathan Ake of Bournemouth. So the starting lineup is Schmeichel in goal, Robertson, Sonichu, Ake, and Lundstrom as a back four. De Bruyne, Mane, Hudson-Odoi in the midfield. Firmino, Aubameyang, and Abraham as captain this week. Leading the line, Button, O'Connell, Kante, and Danoka on the bench. You can see in some ways how I've selected my team based on my predictions. Obviously, the City-Liverpool game will play a big factor, as well as the Arsenal-Leicester, with 7 of my players coming from those 2 games alone. Hopefully, I'm not, as I said, I'm not expecting 92 points again this week, but I'm expecting to hopefully keep my place at the top of my fantasy league with a good, respectable score this week. That'll be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed these predictions. Let me know what yours are in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on Monday for the review show.